Amici sportivi, buongiorno, apriamo il microfono Autodromo Enzo di Ferrari. Le Ferrari 296 Challenge della serie Coppa AM si stanno già preparando con alcune vetture che stanno uscendo dalla pit lane, altre si stanno già schierando per lo schieramento di partenza di questa che sarà la prima finale mondiale in programma. Quest'oggi saranno sempre le gare di finale mondiale con 5 vincitori, perché ricordo questa finale in modo particolare vede in pista tutta la categoria Shell AM, le altre finali avranno è un momento molto molto emozionante, perché abbiamo percorso un lungo giro proprio guarda quest'anno è iniziata il 5 maggio, da 3 a 5 maggio sull'autodromo del Mugello, con il debutto della nuova 296 ha cambiato radicalmente le caratteristiche distribuzione dei cilindri, come le storiche Ferrari che l'hanno preceduta, come la 458, la 430, la 360, anch'essa 8 cilindri. Con quest'anno si cambia radicalmente, si entra nella nuova era Ferrari con questo downsizing, quindi una diminuzione della dimensione del propulsore. Meno fusione e quindi un motore molto più leggero. E parlando di prestazioni, parliamo di una Ferrari che ha in genere per una racing car si parla appunto di prestazione al chilometro più che di tempi sul giro, perché chiaramente la lunghezza del circuito può determinare gap anche diversi. Comunque grosso modo un circuito come Imola ha un gap di 2 secondi e mezzo più veloce, la 296, pur essendo un motore molto più compatto, beneficiando anche di una migliore disposizione dei pesi, perché l'apertura a 120 gradi delle bancate dà ovviamente un baricentro più basso, c'è una profonda ricerca aerodinamica. Se si osserva la berlinetta si vede davanti una vera e propria ala anteriore che è molto di più dello splitter che montava la 488, e abbiamo l'ala posteriore che è una vera e propria wing messa sul posteriore. Ricordiamo si parla di 260 kg di carico a 300 km/h, e qui a Imola ricordiamo che si toccano i 280, uscendo dalla rivazza e arrivando in settima marcia, la prima variante, si toccano praticamente i 280 km/h, velocità veramente molto importanti, con tempi sul giro sull'1.41 su pista asciutta. Oggi abbiamo una condizione di pista che è assolutamente green, come si dice nel notte che come sappiamo è stata molto piovosa, ma speriamo che le previsioni che per oggi danno un miglioramento costante, soprattutto nella tarda mattinata e nel pomeriggio, ci permettano di avere gare asciutte. Per quanto riguarda la giornata di oggi, dicevo, prima gara Ferrari Challenge Coppa AM.
Plenty going on just behind them as we head into turn number 1. Something of a pinch point. Max Michelli trying to make a move early on. Very, very good start, I believe, as we go through turn number 1 right now. himself through into P2 because he's got the inside line. He's world champion, Finale Mondiale champion. Hello everyone, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the showdown. Finale Mondiale, here we are in Imola. Championships are all done and dusted. It is just the world final races to come here at the sun-filled Imola circuit. Well, when those images were taken, certainly so. To be fair, this morning it's looking pretty good, honestly. And what can we look forward to in 2025? Take a look. I think it's fair to say it will be epic. That is our 2025 Ferrari Challenge calendar for Europe in full effect. And here you can see the Imola circuit being unwound in front of you in graphics. What a challenge it is. A demanding track for our drivers, 4.9 kilometers, 21 turns, 12 of them left, 9 of them are right-handers. And all of them have to be navigated on the way to find out who will be our world champion in Coppa Shell Am. 25 of our drivers will be contesting this. Air temperature, track temperature are identical at 18 degrees. And of course, it's only part of the Finale Mondiale weekend is the world final races. And this year, the Ferrari show will kick off with a city parade first, going from the Piazza Antonio Gramsci through the city, as you can see, navigating its way through the city centre and finding its way across the river to the Autodromo Enzo and Dino Ferrari for what will be a stunning Ferrari show, as it always is. Got that to look forward to in a few hours' time. All the drivers that will be taking part in that, and it all culminates with the fantastic picture of just all the competitors across the course of the Finale Mondiale. I was going to say weekend, but that would be inadequate because it's been a week of festivities. And joining me in a week of festivities alongside me, as indeed he has been all season long, Nico. This is it, the final hurrah.
This is the final hurrah. Good morning, everybody. First of all, if you followed us since Wednesday, because that's where we started with qualifying, 2 days of racing, another day of qualifying yesterday, which set up the grid for this race with Roland Hurtner taking P2, then you know all about the weather, or the stories the weather has played, including calling off the Super Pole yesterday, just because it was coming down so hard. And there you can see a wet weather tire is kind of what we expected. Roland Hurtner and wet weather tires is a story in itself that has been told over the weekend. The 127 car of Rikatsu Shibata also sporting wet weather tires. I think it's fair to say we expect all our drivers to be on those Pirellis.
Well, those drivers that have gambled with track conditions as they are at the moment, some have gambled with going with slick tyres. Roland Hurtner, who's alongside this car, this is Eric Chung, our pole sitter, but Roland Hurtner, who's alongside, certainly did that earlier on in the weekend, and it didn't pay off at all. So I think you're right. Can Eric Chung make it 3 out of 3 across this racing weekend, because he's taken 2 wins? Can he add the world final crown to his tally this weekend? Hassan Debussy, a very good qualifying from Hassan Debussy. He's going from P12 on the grid, and Hassan making his debut in the Ferrari Challenge this year and has proven to be a very worthwhile competitor. So as I mentioned, some 25 cars out there on track, and there was last year's Coppa Shell Am champion making his way down the grid, wishing well to all the drivers. And Eric Chung with good luck charm from Corinne, his wife, ever present. And there we can see the Roland Hurtner car. Also out there is the 120 car of Guy Favet. It's poignant that we look at that car right now as we wish Guy Favet a happy birthday. It's his birthday today, and celebrating it by contesting the world final race for the Coppa Shell Am drivers. He's going from P15 on the grid. So, what a phenomenal season it has been, what a phenomenal weekend it has been, and one of the architects of said weekend is Andrea Malatisic.
La stagione 2024 del campionato Ferrari Challenge è stata entusiasmante, ha visto il battesimo della nuova 296 Challenge nei 2 principali campionati, l'europeo e l'americano. I numeri e la risposta da parte dei nostri clienti è stata impressionante. Abbiamo avuto una media di oltre 70 vetture nel campionato Europa e altrettante nel campionato americano. La stagione europea è stata combattuta, bei duelli in tutte le classi. Abbiamo anche salutato ormai la 488, che la mandiamo in pensione, la 488 Challenge Evo, in vista poi del completamento del lancio della 296 anche nei campionati regionali. Infatti il prossimo anno la lanceremo ufficialmente nel campionato UK, in quello Japan e nel nuovissimo campionato Australasia. Siamo già ormai quasi nel pieno della stagione 2025, che viene preparata con parecchio anticipo ovviamente rispetto al reale inizio della stagione. Sarà un'altra stagione entusiasmante, non solo perché appunto lanciamo la nuova serie Australasia, quindi nuovi circuiti in un nuovo contesto, ma anche perché dopo la presentazione dei calendari la risposta dei clienti è stata molto positiva. Mi è piaciuto tantissimo il calendario europeo, si può dire altrettanto del campionato nordamericano, quindi ci aspettiamo ottimi risultati anche nel corso della prossima stagione. A questo punto ci diamo tutti appuntamento a casa nostra nel circuito del Mugello.
Good to hear from the boss, Andrea Malatisic, who he and his team worked so hard to deliver this fantastic series, Nico.
Absolutely, and it was great to see a lot of faces of those who make this championship work behind the scenes. You don't see on the screen, obviously, our protagonists in the cars, but there are so many people everywhere who allow us and allow you to experience and watch this amazing championship. And for the Coppa Shell Am, this is it. Final hurrah, final race, and a championship to be won at the checkered flag.
Indeed so, we are standing by, so too are 25 drivers champing at the bit to get going. So the Richard Mills safety car will lead the cars away on the formation lap. They're on their way. This is it. First race to show on Sunday. It is for our Coppa Shell Am drivers, who will end the 30-minute plus 1 lap and be crowned the world champion. Here's the grid in full, going from P26 Al Haiki, P25 for Paul Lynn. Brian Waterstorff and Louis Peruski go from P24 and P23. It's Dana Goodwin and Alvaro Ramos going from P22 and 21. Then it's Josef Schumacher and Roger Monteforte, Coppa Am champion in North America. Mutlutasev, Andrea Levy at P18 and P17 with Steve Czech and Guy Feve. Happy birthday, Guy. P16 and P15. Jeff Nunberg, Paolo Scudieri are P14 and P13. They occupy row 7. And on row 6 we find Hassan Dabusi and Gabe Rib. It's Norikatsu Shibata and Stephen Earle who are sharing the 5th row. P10 and P9. P8 is Shintaro Akatsu. P7, Andreas Koenig. It's Henrik Kamstrup, Jan Sandman are on the 3rd row. It's P6 and P5 for those drivers, with Zoe Skrimpias and Tal Al-Shayer with a brilliant qualifying. They go from P4 and P3. However, the front row contains Roland Hertner, and Eric Chung is our pole sitter. So, gloves off. Hold on to anything that might be loose-fitting, because this is going to be probably quite dramatic. Track conditions are far from perfect, Nico. To the best of our knowledge, most if not all drivers on the wet tyres. The track is still very damp. It's demanding. 4.9 kilometers, 21 turns, and the gold roof, theoretically, virtually, the world champion title. Cars will line up side by side in grid formation, and Nico, at the conclusion of the formation lap, they have to ride through their grid boxes. Who will be crowned world champion? It's a question neither you nor I can answer.
Indeed, and time will tell, and we look forward to an amazing race. You've said it before, in this race very often strategy is out the window, because it's only about where you finish this race. So the drivers will be keen, will be looking to do as well as possible. No thinking about points, only positions. One more turn and a king to do before the lights.
Here we go then. The sense of anticipation and excitement builds. The Richard Mills safety car will peel off into the pit lane. Eric Chung is champing at the bit to get going here. He has had a brilliant end to the season. Can he crown it? Can Roland Hertner get the jump on him going into the Variante Tamburello? The first chicane, turns 2, 3 and 4. Can Jan Sandman pull something out of the bag? He qualified really well. He's on the 3rd row. So too is Henrik Kamstrup. And Zoe Skripias, our Coppa Am champion, is going from P4. Let's take a look at the lights at the top of the screen. And the lights go out. Let's go racing then. It is the world final race. Jan Salmon on the grass trying to get past Tal Al-Shayer. I think he's succeeded in doing that. As the cars all head to the chicane for the first time of asking, Eric Chung and Roland Hertner side by side. Jan Sandman moves himself up into P3, having got by Zoe Skrimpias as well. So a great start from Jan Sandman. One car has gone around. I think that might be Steve Czech, but I could be wrong. It's difficult to pick them out sometimes in the murk and the spray. But Eric Chung is leading from Roland Hertner. Then it is Jan Sandman following his blistering start. And sure enough, it is Steve Czech who'll get the car pointing in the right direction again. Great shame. And Eric Chung leading the way.
Yeah, indeed, bad for Steve Czech, but the good thing is he can continue and we won't have a safety car intervention early on. So Eric Chung held on, did everything right against Roland Hertner. Jan Sandman with a little bit over the grass on the inside, but all fair and square, kept 2 wheels on the gray stuff. So no reason for race control to look at that maneuver. 28 minutes, 45 seconds away. Who can do what? Zoe Skrimpias, he's the champion in Europe, was relegated by a position by Jan Sandman, but he certainly has the pace in the car and the confidence.
You're absolutely right. And he's proven just what a fantastic driver he is. Eric Chung then trying to build up something of a margin over Roland Hertner. He's up to just under 9 tenths. And that's repeated across P2 and P3. The driver that is under a bit of pressure right now is perhaps arguably Zoe Skrimpias, who's got Henrik Kamstrup right behind him. And behind Henrik Kamstrup is Talal Shayer as the rest of the cars make their way through as well. And Talal Shayer, I believe, has made contact with the barriers and does a complete 360 2 times. I think it was Talal Shayer. Just losing it on the exit of Ravazza 2, losing the back end of the car. And that sent Talal Shayer into a sequence of donuts, which he didn't want to do. He has managed to get the car going again. Well done, Talal. That also prevents the need for any intervention from race control in terms of the safety car coming out. Eric Chung just looking a bit wobbly there going into that turn as Roland Hurtner narrows the gap, Nico, down to less than 5/10 now. So Roland Hurtner, I would argue, now he's brought his tyres up to temperature, is beginning to claw in Eric Chung. I don't know whether Eric Chung has, he's slowed since the very, very start of this race, and Roland Hurtner and Eric Chung are side by side. And I would say that Roland Hurtner has got the pace here, and he goes through and picks up the lead of this world final race. And Jan Sandman is not far behind either. So for the Go Motorsport Engstler driver, Roland Hurtner.
Absolutely, and Eric Chung seems to have a bit of a problem. It's not handicapping him entirely, but you can see he's losing just a little bit on the straight. It looks like he's okay, but through the turns, you can see every turn he's losing just a few tenths, and the car just not handling as well as it had all week.
So very often, Roland Hurtner has been the bridesmaid. I was only saying just yesterday, he's had podium places. The win has eluded him. If he's going to take the win in this race, wow, what a win it would be. Jan Sandman may have something to say about that, so too might Zoe Skrimpias. We've still got 26 minutes plus 1 lap of racing to come. Nothing is done until the fat lady sings, or really rather the checkered flag is flown. But Roland Hurtner now 1.2 seconds to the good over Eric Chung and sets the fastest lap. So Eric Chung then, whether he had just an issue, he seems to have got himself back up to a reasonable pace again. He's not being clawed in or closed in by Jan Sandman quite as much. Confirmation there that Roland Hurtner sets the fastest lap, Nico.
Indeed, and we had this as we take another look at the start and how things got off and underway.
It was a brave move by Jan Sandman, Nico, which was very similar to the move that was made by Henri Acide in the Coppa Shell race yesterday. And to be fair, I think Jan had to do that because the car ahead of him, which was the car of Talal Shayer, seemed to first phase of the start get away, and then in the second phase of the start slowed a bit. So, and there we could see the Steve Chet car having gone around, and whether there was an assist in Steve finding himself pointing in the wrong direction. That was Talal Shayer then coming out of the second of the Ravazza turns, just losing the back end of the car in very challenging conditions. The driver's doing so well, and now under real pressure from Jan Sandman is Eric Chung. Looks to be some debris up there just before the start of the downhill section. And Jan Sandman, who again has made his debut in the European Ferrari Challenge this year and has certainly been a force to be reckoned with. To crown it with a podium in the world final race would be just desserts, I would suggest, for the driver-car combo of Jan Sandman. Kessel Racing, coached by Charlie Hollings. And there is Eric Chung, who for the moment has seen off the challenge and charge from Jan Sandman. But such is his determination. He has just set the fastest lap, Nico.
Yes, indeed. And again, we will see what happens. We had this something like that earlier in the week where it was Henrik Kamstrup who all of a sudden lost pace, lost like a second and a half per lap, and after 2 or 3 laps he was totally back on top speed. So it's not all said and done. For the moment, Eric Chung 1.3 seconds behind Roland Hurtner, but it has happened that the pace just comes back. But for the moment he has to hold off Jan Sandman, because otherwise he will be relegated to P3, and the gap towards Zoe Skrimpias has really opened up.
Yes, these three have broken away from the rest of the pack fairly significantly. Zoe Skrimpias about 2 seconds down on Jan Sandman. There you can see Andreas Koenig, who's running P7. He's got Shintaro Akatsu for good measure right behind. Then it's Stephen Earle. Then it is Hassan Tabusi having a good race. Oh, and that is Roland Hertner. That's our race leader. So the Go Motorsport Engstler driver who was leading the race is beached in the gravel. You can see the look of horror on the Go Motorsport Engstler pit wall as our race leader, Roland Hertner, is out. So Eric Chung is back in the lead as the safety car is called for.
Wow, well, I'm curious to see how that happened. First of all, yes, the safety car is out. That means no overtaking. Everything will settle down, and Eric Chung is back in the lead. Zoe Skrimpias, that gap that had been built up has been reduced again. Fresh start for a lot of the drivers who had to navigate a significant gap. Otherwise, as you can see, everybody's coming in with huge margins, but I mean, that is disaster, obviously, for Roland Hertner, and I'm sure we will get a replay of that at some point.
Yes, I'm sure we will. So Eric Chung, Jan Sandman, Zoe Skrimpias. And I can only feel, Nico, that Roland at that time had got a reasonable margin, hadn't he? So whether it was just track conditions, and that's what sent Roland around. Now, the recovery teams here at Imola have been brilliant these racing days in terms of recovering cars very quickly, so we hope it won't be a long safety car period. For Roland Hertner, it will feel like a really long time. He was doing a great job, but Roland Hertner finding himself beached in the gravel. Eric Chung, Jan Sandman, Zoe Skrimpias. So, with 21 minutes plus 1 lap remaining in this race, the face of it, certainly from the front end point of view, has been changed a little.
a little more. Safety car in this lap, so we don't have too much time to reflect on it.
That plays into the hands of what I was saying in terms of the efficiency of the recovery teams here, Nico.
Yeah, definitely. They've been very quick all week long and allowed us to do a lot of racing coming out of safety car interventions, not delaying us more than it was absolutely necessary. So 20 minutes, let's say 19 minutes as they cross the line remaining, plus a lap. Eric Chung, it will be interesting whether he has been able to pick up the pace again. Jan Sandman, he will have his ideas about...
He will be utterly determined, Nico.
Yeah, he will feel like he's in the gun seat almost.
I agree with you. And we know what happens. All the cars bunched up together again, and you made the point earlier on, so well as you do, that this is effectively a restart for all the drivers, isn't it? And there is still enough time on the clock for them to make a difference over the, as you say, probably 18 and a half or 19 minutes that will remain when the safety car has led them around and has gone back into the pit lane. You can see the cars, or you will see the cars now coming down the hill towards the Rivazza turns. Rivazza 1, Rivazza 2. This is our world final day, finale mondiale here at Imola. Jan Sandman, Zoe Skrimpias going to be danger men. So too, potentially, Henrik Kamstrup. So Eric Chung is responsible for controlling the pace of the restart. Only he can decide when he gives it absolute maximum momentum. You can see Zoe Skrimpias champing at the bit on the back end of Jan Sandman. Henrik Kamstrup coming in. Now Eric Chung goes for it. I think it was a reasonable anticipation from Jan Sandman, perhaps a bit better than Zoe Skrimpias and Henrik Kamstrup. But let's go racing once again with Eric Chung back in the lead of this. Jan Sandman taking a look at the inside. But nothing doing as Eric Chung, whatever issue he had that allowed Roland Hertner to go by, for the moment, Nico, seems to have gone away. So credit to all the drivers in, pretty difficult conditions out there. They have got away from the safety car restart all reasonably well, and that's great to see. Zoe Skrimpias then running in P3. He is our Coppa Am champion. He actually took the championship title at the Nürburgring in Germany, even before coming here to the final round. Such has been his fantastic performance this year as all the cars come running through. There is Shintaro Akatsu, who's really taken this to Andreas Koenig for the P6 place. But Eric Chung stretching his legs over Jan Salmon now to the tune of 1.4 seconds. One of the closest battles is this one that's going on between Andreas Koenig and Shintaro Akatsu, which is, as I say, for P6.
Indeed, and certainly no trouble with pace for the time being for Eric Chung. So whatever it was, certainly not showing up for him now. Jan Sandman, he is struggling a little bit, didn't have the best way through the chicane, and that means he's fallen a little bit into the clutches of Zoe Skrimpias, our European champion. It's going to be very, very interesting. Eric Chung, in fairness, has had the pace here in the Coppa Chelem throughout the entire week. He and his Castle Racing team, Formula Racing team, apologies, as Jan Salmon, obviously for Castle Racing in P2. Formula Racing really had this track and the conditions down for all their drivers, and Eric Chung was one of those who made the most out of that. Fastest lap now, 1:54.402, and that is 1.7 seconds quicker than Jan Sandman. So let's see what will happen, but for the time being, any concern for the Eric Chung pace and the car seems to have been vastly exaggerated.
I agree. So it's as we were. Eric Chung, Jan Salmon, Zoe Skrimpias. Then it's Henrik Kamstrup. Then it is Shibata. And great job being done by Noah Katsu. Shibata running in P5. And Andreas Koenig and Shintaro Akatsu continuing to contest. But there's no doubt about it, Andreas under a bit of pressure from Shintaro Akatsu. Seemingly under no pressure at the moment, Nico, is Eric Chung as battle going on there, and that is between Louis Peruskia and Roger Monteforte. Roger Monteforte, of course, the AM champion in North America. And looks like if he can get the drag uphill here, but Louis Peruskia closes the door. Right behind these two is Alvaro Ramos. So this is for P16, 17 and 18 in this world final race. And Louis Peruskia then, who has been contesting all of the European races, as now Roger Monteforte gets to the inside. But again, Louis is able to carry more momentum. And Roger, you can see across the curbs, and that costs him in terms of time and allows Alvaro Ramos to get a little bit closer to him, Nico.
Yeah, indeed. You have to always be careful when you try an attack and you've got another car behind you, that you don't leave yourself vulnerable in your attack to move forward. You might very quickly go backwards. There is Andreas Koenig on the defensive line against Shintaro Akatsu, and keeps his position for the time being, but he would so dearly love to move forward, get on terms with Norikatsu Shibata, but for the time being he has to defend and focus on that. 15 minutes remaining, plus a lap. Last time around, the gap between Chung and Sandman has grown again by half a second. Not quite the margin of the previous lap, but still Eric Chung the quickest.
Yeah, so he's still increasing it, as you say, perhaps not the same as the margin last time around, or the speed last time around, but it's still increasing. Andreas Koenig, who's had an up and down season this year, but has driven so well and has been so impressive, and it was great to see him on the stage at the glittering championship awards ceremony last night, of which I had the privilege of co-presenting. And we're looking at Paolo Scudieri, who, with the pace that Paolo Scudieri has shown during the course of the season, him running in P12 in this world final race is not necessarily reflective of the pace and the success that Paolo Scudieri has had. So the order is Chung, Sandman, Skrimpias, top three. Then it's Kamstrup, Shibata, Koenig, Akatsu, Earl, Debussy, and Gabe Harib is running in P10. Here is the Paolo Scudieri car once again, then running in P12. Next in order for him is Jeffrey Nunberg. And there you can see the 441 car of Jeffrey Nunberg, and there you can see the coach to Paolo Scudieri, which is Stefano Guy. Meantime, Eric Chung continuing to try and put more tarmac between himself and Jan Sandman. 3.283 was the margin last time around. We'll get a live gap for you when Eric Chung crosses the timing line. You can see him diving for some of the puddles out there, Nico, just to keep those wet weather tyres cool. and that's how they work best, is when they're kept damp. And okay, the margin increases to 3.549, so he's still finding tenths, Nico, and increasing that gap between himself and his pursuer, Jan Sandman.
Yes, indeed. It's now 6 tenths once again, like the previous time around. 6 more tenths added on the last 4.9 kilometers. The gaps in the top 6 really are very, very similar, or at least nothing where an immediate attack is possible. The closest gap in the top 10 is actually Shintaro Akatsu and Andreas Koenig. But it's still 12.5 minutes plus a lap remaining. Those gaps will change, and we will be watching who is approaching whom on the track. Eric Chung, meanwhile, he makes use of all his experiences. We have a little bit of a fight group here, and that is led by Alvaro Ramos. That it's trying to make an overtake, and that is on the inside. The 4-2 car, Steve Jack, obviously, who was nerfed out at the beginning, but the safety car obviously brought him back into the battles.
Indeed.
And he's now trying to make good and improve and get back to his original starting position.
And it's things like that, safety cars, that play into the hands of those that have perhaps been disadvantaged earlier on in the races. Fighting here with Brian Waltersdorf. And ahead of them both is Louis Perusquia. So Louis then, having been driving in the European season this year, has got Brian Waltersdorf and Steve Czech right behind him. Alvaro Ramos there in the 150 car, running in P17. Louis Perusquia, P18. Brian Waltersdorf, P19, and Steve Czech then running P20. The gap between P1 and P2, 3.495 seconds. We have just under 11 minutes remaining plus 1 lap. It's Chung from Sandman, from Scrimpias, the top 3. And here is Paolo Scudieri, who's beginning to pile the pressure on Jeffrey Nunberg. This is for P11. And there is Paolo Scudieri, pushing Jeffrey Nunberg hard. Jeffrey Nunberg, who's had a good season in North America, comes here for the finale Mondiale event. Race winner in North America, that's for sure. Absolutely determined. He gives 100% to his racing, as he has told me when I've sat at dinner with him, that, you know, he maximum commitment to everything that he turns his attention to. And of course he is now in turn beginning to push Gabe Harib, who is ahead of him, being propelled into that, I would suggest, by the pressure that's coming from Paolo Scudieri. So it's becoming a three-way fight, forgive me, for P10 in this race. That little trio of cars there, led by Gabe Harib. Then it's Jeffrey Nunberg and Paolo Scudieri, and Paolo all over the back of Jeffrey Nunberg, trying to find just somewhere where he can make a move. And of course he doesn't want to leave himself vulnerable to Andrea Levy, who's right behind him, and we know how just how determined Andrea Levy can be. So all of a sudden, from a three-way fight to a four-way fight, and don't rule Guy Favre, the birthday man, from coming into this as well.
And the last 2 laps, just a quick view to the side. The last 2 laps, Jan Sandman has been marginally quicker than Eric Chung, so he stopped the bleed, if you will, and the gap now at 3.3 seconds with 9 minutes and a lap. Maybe Eric Chung is just managing the gap, but it's just something to keep an eye on. Jan Sandman with the fastest lap last time around.
Thank you, Nico. Of course, it should be borne in mind that Eric Chung has done a lot of racing in the Ferrari Challenge. He's raced not only in Europe, he's also raced in the Asia region, and one race in North America as well has Eric Chung. So he's wise, I would suggest, and knows how to control the gap. But Jan Sandman, we recognize the fact that he has set the fastest lap, and Jeffrey Nunberg is now feeling the pressure of Paolo Scudieri really intensely, who in turn has got Andrea Levy for company. And Gabe Harib, the more these three are fighting behind, it plays into his hands. So Gabe Harib is able to escape up the road. The Ferrari of Atlanta driver is Gabe Harib, running in at P10 place at the moment. Paolo Scudieri dives to the inside of Jeffrey Nunberg. Wasn't quite close enough to make the move. So this is a fantastic fight that we're enjoying here with just under 8 minutes plus a lap of this finale Mondiale world final race remaining. It is our Coppa Shell AM drivers, the best of those drivers from across Europe and North America, all contesting this world final race, with the gap coming down once again between Jan Salmon and Eric Chung. Jan has got the hurry up.
Yeah, absolutely. Another 3/10 away. Now pretty much exactly 3 seconds between the two of them. I mean, Eric Chung is such an experienced driver. You wouldn't put him beyond him to be cool enough to just manage that gap and, you know, allow it to go down by 3/10 tenths of a second per lap. That would be enough for him. But, you know, that he comes into the territory where one mistake really gets Jan Salmon into his draft, and then it is a different game. So we will watch that as the race unfolds. The last 7 minutes at a lap. There is Andrea Levi on the inside of Paolo Scudieri, and it's exactly what you said. You try to move forward, and all of a sudden you are a little bit too much focused to what's happening in front of you, and someone else is in front of you all of a sudden.
It does leave you vulnerable, doesn't it? And that's exactly what happened to Paolo Scudieri. You can see the look of abject disappointment on his driver coach's face, Stefano Guy. So now Jeff Nunberg is going to feel the weight and pressure of Andrea Levy rather than Paolo Scudieri. And now Guy Favre trying to get on terms with Paolo Scudieri as well. So 5 drivers then all contesting this P10 place. And Jeff Nunberg right in the mix of it, running in P11. 6 minutes remaining plus 1 lap, the first of our world final races. And it is our finale Mondiale race for the drivers that are in the Coppa Shell AM category. As Andreas Koenig fights here with Norikatsu Shibata, the Cornes Osaka driver, having seen off Shintaro Akatsu. Shintaro Akatsu has dropped way down when you consider that he was running right with Andreas Koenig, and now Andreas Koenig is, well, sensing the opportunity of a P5 finish here rather than P6. There you can see Shintaro Akatsu just coming out of the Ravazza 2 turn. So he has been dropped significantly. So the Go Motorsport team, the pit wall there. Here is our progress chart. Up 3 places for Jan Salmon, up 5 places for Shibata. Up 3 places for Hassan Dabusi, up 5 for Andrea Levy. Lots of drivers have made very good progress in the course of this race. And we have less than 5 minutes plus 1 lap as Andreas Koenig turns the heat up on the 127 car of Norikatsu Shibata, the Cornes Osaka racer. So Andreas Koenig, who's had a roller coaster season, can he master the roller coaster circuit of Imola and find himself in that P5 position rather than P6? He's got 4.5 minutes plus a lap to be able to get to the better of Norikatsu Shibata, who, to be fair, is defending really steadfastly and well at the moment.
Yes, indeed, and you might be forgiven for thinking that the European drivers might have more of an advantage on the European circuits, but our competitors from North America and Japan, they're so experienced. They have such a great command of this magnificent 296 challenge car. And remember, they might have been here with different cars, but this is the first season of a new car, so yes, the amount of data available to the teams and the experience of the drivers is limited, but it's such a, I don't want to say forgiving, but friendly car for the drivers. Everybody tells us that, so it's really remarkable how drivers who are here in Imola for the very first time this week, under very difficult conditions, have mastered this.
You make a very good point. Every driver has said that, you know, the 296 challenge car is a brilliant car to race, as the gap has come down between P5 and P6, and also between P1 and P2, Nico.
Absolutely, 1 full second quicker the last time around for Jan Sandman, and even though it's only 3 minutes 21 seconds plus a lap, we're now to 2 seconds of a gap. So that means if this trajectory continues, Jan Sandman, by the time he hits that +1 lap window, might be able to do something, and it is the world final race. It's the ultimate crown in the Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shalom. He would go for it if he had the opportunity, for sure. Andreas König would also want to get the opportunity. This is for P5, but whatever happens in front of them, it might be for a podium at the end of the day.
Yes, so Andreas König tries to outdrag going up the hill here as Norikatsu Shibata has done a great job in defending. They do go side by side. Andreas König then trying to get this P5 place, and I think he has probably done it. Yes, he has. After lap and corner after corner of trying, Andreas König moves through into P5 and drops there for Shintaro, drops there for Norikatsu Shibata into P6. Meantime, at the front, the gap is down to 1.8 seconds now between Eric Chung and Jan Sandman. There is Eric Chung, there is Jan Sandman. It's palpable. You can actually see how much closer Jan Sandman is getting. The pressure is mounting on Eric Chung, Nico.
Yeah, but good news for Eric Chung. He's going to cross the timing line with just not enough time remaining to do 2 more laps, but it's going to be this plus one more. So he has to withstand the pressure. But Jan Sandman again, 0.9 of a second quicker, 1.2 seconds the gap. That is going to be the drama that we were hoping for. The fight for the finish, the fight for the ultimate trophy, the Gold Roof race. It is on.
It is on, and Jan Sandman will be utterly determined to crown his debut season in the Ferrari Challenge Europe by taking the World Championship race. Eric Chung is looking in his rearview screen. He's very well aware of the fact that just 8/10 behind him is the hypercar homage-paying livery of Jan Sandman, who is running very close in P2, but Jan has got the remainder of this lap plus 1 more lap, Nico. You've calculated that really correctly. You can hear the Pirelli tyres protesting because the track has dried out significantly. All of the drivers are running on wet weather tyres. They do not perform brilliantly when the track is drying. Eric himself has said that more than one occasion. The car becomes very, very slippery, or rather the track conditions become very slippery as the blocks. And there is a mistake from Eric Chung, which allows Jan Sandman to get a little bit closer. What he's got to do, he's going to have to seize the opportunity that is gifted to him, though. And he wasn't quite close enough to be able to take advantage, but there is no doubt about it that Eric Chung is under a bit of pressure here.
Absolutely, you've said it a million times probably. Getting close to someone is one thing, getting past the other car is another thing, but that's exactly what Jan Sandman has in mind. That's exactly what he intends to do. A little bit of a sideways moment allows Eric Chung to get a little bit up the road again, but this is the final lap. We're counting down. 1 more lap to do in the Coppa Shalom 2024 season, and it's for all the marbles.
Andrea Fausti, one of the driver coaches there on the pit wall, as here is Gabe Harib under pressure from Andrea Levy. Andrea Levy going through. This is in replay. The gap between P1 and P2 is 7.5 tenths. And this, Jan Sandman, I can't help but feel, is going to throw everything at it by the kitchen sink to try and find a way by. And Eric Chung, who, of course, started on pole position, led the race, got overtaken by Roland Hertner, then clawed Roland Hertner back in. Roland Hertner ended up in the gravel. That gave Eric Chung the lead of the race once again. And now Eric Chung undoubtedly is feeling the pressure of Jan Sandman, and he's also having to drive on tyres that are not giving of their best because the conditions of the track have changed. But, well, it's going to be a real blast effort from Jan Sandman. It's going to have to be, Nico, because there are but a few turns left.
Indeed, one opportunity is up into the chicane. If he gets a good drag here, and I think he's got one, but I don't think it's quite close enough. Eric Chung obviously wise of that. He will be on the inside trying to defend, and then it's the Rivazza 1, Rivazza 2. That's really the last opportunity, and Eric Chung is going through the chicane. Jan Sandman is close.
He is all over the back of Eric Chung. They will now build up momentum coming down the hill. As Nico has said, Ravazza 1, Ravazza 2, await. Where's Jan Sandman going to pitch his car? Well, he was wide going into that turn. And I really rather think Eric may have done enough. It's going to be a drag race all the way to the timing line now. Jan Sandman looking for any opportunity he can. But I think Eric Chung has done enough. He is the world champion. But he was chased all the way to the line by Jan Sandman. And I have to say, credit to both of the drivers. That could have ended up very differently.
Absolutely. There is Zoe Scrimpius. Let's not lose sight of him. He was new to motor racing. Henrik Kamstra comes through. Zoe Scrimpius, he is new to racing. He finishes on the podium for the World Finals. Great race. Andreas Koenig, Norikatsu Shibata, our top 6. Shintaro Katsu we expect in P7. Hassan Debussy P8. Great driving from all our drivers in this race, and it came to a climax at the end. The overtake didn't come, but that is the kind of racing we want to see all the way to the checkered flag.
It was absolutely clean, tidy, and Mrs. Chung is already phoning Eric in the car, hands-free, of course, to say, well done, hubby. I have to say, Nico, big credit to Jan Sandman for not only taking it to Eric Chung, but for not going for a daredevil move that could have been really difficult for both of them.
Yes, absolutely. And we had an interview with Eric Chung in one of our programs early in the year, and he talked about how he continues racing in the Ferrari Challenge and how Green is always with him, and that he says, you know, it's like a honeymoon, and it's a lot of honeymoons for him. And I think, you know, this must be one of the best honeymoons for him.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Well done to Eric Chung. What a weekend he's had, Nico, to be fair to him. 3 wins on the bounce here at Imola, you know. Very good job done. And well done to all of our drivers in challenging conditions. For the most part, they kept it absolutely on the tarmac. And yes, they're the top 2. It came to the final sequence of laps, and we knew it was building and building and building, and it did build into what was a fantastic finish. There is Corinne waiting to greet her husband. Now, on the previous 2 race wins here, Nico, he has vaulted onto the roof of the car. I'd rather suggest that he might try and do exactly the same again.
Maybe it's the roof of the pit building, if he follows form. He's certainly going to mount the top of the podium in a few minutes, but let's watch what happens here. Formula Racing. They won the team trophy as well in Europe in 2024, and they get the first of the 3 World Final race wins. Remember, we have 2 more of those.
Yes.
Don't go anywhere.
Here is Zoe Scrimpius coming in then. And he is on the roof of the car. And just look at the camaraderie there'll be. One of the first to come and congratulate him will be Jan Sandman, who's jumped out of the car. You can see him making his way behind the Eric Chung car. What a fair race between the 2 of them, Nico.
Absolutely. I mean, let's spare a thought for Roland Hurtner.
I know.
There is, first of all, Zoe Scrimpius. Well done, and you can see it means a lot to him. He was the quickest in Europe all season. Didn't have the best week in terms of pace in Imola, and great respect to him. Roland Hurtner, he led the race. He was building the lead, and whatever happened. Hugely disappointing. However, it has to be said, his pace over the last few events, amazing.
Here is confirmation of the world final result. Eric Chung taking the win from Jan Sandman and Zoe Scrimpius. Then it was Henrik Kamstra. Good finish, Henrik. Andreas Koenig, P5. Norikatsu Shibata, P6. Then Shintaro Wakatsu. Hassan Debussy. Brilliant drive, Hassan. Andrea Levy, P9. Stephen Earle, P10. Taking P11 then, the Ferrari of Atlanta driver, Gabe Harib from North America. Then it was Paolo Scudieri, Jeffrey Number, Guy Favre, Roger Monteforte, Alvaro Ramos, Mutlu Tarzev, Louis Perusquia, and Brian Waltersdorf. And they finished ahead of Paul Lynn, Dana Goodwin and Steve Cech. Regrettably out, Roland Hurtner, Tal Al-Sher and Al Hegi did not start the race. We, of course, will be hearing from Eric Chung. I'll be very interested to hear what he says about how the second part of the race, he was probably having to manage tyres that were not affording him the grip that he would have really liked, but it was a brilliant job. So let's hear from our race winner then, our world champion, and that is Eric Chung.
Eric, congratulations, what a race, maybe a nervous race. First of all, I want to ask you, did you expect that?
Well, I hope I can finish first, but what I think may not be achieved. So during the start, I'm okay, but at the last part, I break too early, I make a few mistakes, and Sandman is catching up. And so it makes me more nervous and more mistakes. So hopefully, finish. Maybe one more lap, I will be passed by him. So.
Eric, how do you build with your coach this race?
This race is marvelous, and this track is marvelous because I got podium. So, especially, yeah, very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well done, Eric Chung. As the cars set off from the Coppa category then for their World Championship race. It was a brilliant start from Jan Sandman, who was on the grass, but that was enough to put him up to P3. Roland Hurtner chasing down Eric Chung right at the start of the race. Hassan Debussy looking good, Jeff Nunberg looking good, and looking in the wrong direction, regrettably, following an assist with Steve Cech. Now, this was Roland Hurtner going for the lead of the race. Jan Sandman not far behind either. So Roland Hurtner now leading Eric Chung, and Jan Sandman running in P3. Lots of action going on throughout the pack of cars, that's for sure, and very much involved in it was Roland Hurtner, who sadly found the gravel trap, and you can see the disappointment from his team. Safety car was out, and therefore it just meant that everyone had a fresh start into the race. Andrea Levy getting past Paolo Scudieri. Gabe Harib was under some pressure from Jeff Nunberg, and Stefano Guy was disappointed to see his driver overtaken. Andreas Koenig, well, he spent quite some time behind the car of Norikatsu Shibata, but eventually he was able to find his way by for the P5 place. So Eric Chung then was leading. Gabe Harib then had the car of Andrea Levy, and Andrea Levy increasing and accelerating up. Eric Chung, right at the end of the race, came under so much pressure from Jan Sandman, but Eric Chung had done enough to become the Finale Mondiale World Champion from Jan Sandman and Zeus Scrimpias. Well done, Eric Chung. He is the World Champion for 2024. We'll be heading up to the podium where we will be seeing Zeus Scrimpias, Jan Sandman and Eric Chung on the podium for the Finale Mondiale race for our Coppa Shell AM drivers. Okay, here it comes then. So coming out first of all will be Zeus Scrimpias for the Ineco Rapata Corsa Ram team, taking P3. A brilliant drive from Jan Sandman to take P2. His first season in European Challenge. But our world champion is Eric Chung, and he makes his way to the top step of the podium. there is one very proud wife of Eric Chung, who is world champion. I'm racking my brains. Erica's won a lot of races. James Gallardo here, hypercar driver, Ferrari factory driver, making the trophy presentation for P3 to Jan Sandman. To Zoe Scrimpias. Jan Sandman in receipt of his trophy now from Antonio Giovinazzi, I believe it was. And now the World Championship trophy is being presented by Alessandro Pierguidi to Eric Chung, Finale Mondiale winner.
Hats off to Eric Chung, hats off to all our 3 podium places, hats off to Ferrari for engineering such an amazing event.
I agree. Lots of photographs being taken. And the champagne is sprayed. Well done to all our drivers in Coppa whether from North America, whether from Europe. You have delivered some brilliant racing for us over 2024, and from Nico and myself, there's only one thing we can say: we're looking forward to 2025. From Coppa, thank you so much for watching. Still lots of racing to come, and the Ferrari show as well.